Okay guys, so in the last video we looked at how we can create our own database and table, and in this video we're going to look at how we can insert data into the table. We're also going to look a bit more at how to use the select statement here, and then we're going to learn how to delete data from the table. So let's get into this. Firstly, let's delete this line of code we have up here. So the first thing we want to do is insert some data into our table, because right now it's just blank. So to do this, we use the keyword insert and then into. So we're inserting into, and what are we inserting into? We need our table name here, which is customers. Again, make sure you have the correct database selected here. You want customers, and here we need to open up our brackets. Now, before I continue here, the reason why we need to open up our brackets here is because our columns are ID, first name, and phone number. But as I mentioned in the last video, we used something called auto increment when we created this ID field, which means we don't have to pass it in manually. But unfortunately, because we're only passing in 2 values here, and this requires 3 values, we need to specify which 2 values we're passing in here. So to make this a bit more clear, if ID wasn't auto incrementing, if we passed it in manually, we don't need to include these brackets here, we can just continue. But since we're not passing in ID, we need to specify which 2 values we're going to be passing in. And for us, it's going to be first underscore name, and then we use a comma here to separate it, and we go phone underscore number. So those are the 2 columns we're going to be passing in. And after this, we need to say values, and we add in our brackets again. And now we need to specify the values that we're putting in. So they need to be in the same order as the way you wrote it here. So I wrote phone number first, and first name first, and then phone number second. So in this values, I need to first pass in the first name and then the phone number secondly, in the same order as we wrote it here. So for the first name, I'm just going to type in Bob, and this needs to be enclosed in single quotes. And then we use a comma here. And remember, the phone number is also a string, so we need to enclose that in single quotes as well. I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we need to end our line with the semicolon here. And now let's run this and see what happens. So I've ran it, and we get a check mark at the bottom, but it's not showing the data that we just put into our table. That's because to view the data, we always need to use the select statement. So on the next line here, I'm going to do select again. And remember, we use a star to get everything from, and then the table name, customers. And don't forget your semicolon at the end here. So now if I select just this line and I run it, it's going to show me 2 Bob and 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Now notice if I don't select this line, so I just leave my cursor here and I press this, it's going to run the entire page again, and it's going to insert 2 Bobs here. And also you may notice that my IDs start from 2. That's just because I did something outside of the tutorial just to test something. So if you put an entry in here and then delete it, you can never use that ID again. It will just move forward and use the next ID, which is why we're starting at 2 here. So now we have 2 Bobs. How do we get rid of one of them? So I'm going to delete this line at the top. Actually, let's leave it there, because now we know how to run just a single line of code. And here I'm going to say delete. And now we need to say from. So we're deleting from somewhere. Where are we deleting from? The customers table. So customers. And now we need to use the special command called where. And here we need to specify what we want to delete. So where ID is equal to 3, if that makes sense. And we're going to talk a bit more about where in a few minutes. But for right now, let's just select this line of code and run it. And now let's select actually we forgot to put a semicolon here. Now let's select the select statement and run it. And we see we have an ID of 2, Bob 1234, and it got rid of that other entry for us. Okay, so now let's talk about this where here. But before that, I'm going to insert one more thing here. I'm going to change Bob to John. And I'm going to change 1234 to 5678. And let's run this statement. Now we can select our customers again. And we have 2 customers here. Now let's talk about how we can use where. So in the select statement, I'm going to add on where at the end here, and I'm going to say first underscore name is equal to, and I need to use my single quotes here, and inside of them I'm going to type John. So now I'm going to run this line of code. And you can see, even though there's 2 entries in the table right now, it's only returning the one that says John. So where is a way of filtering based on the data that's inside each column. So here we're saying we want all the customers, select star from customers, but only where the first name is equal to John. And also notice when we use where here, we use a single equals to assign. If you're coming from another programming languages, you might be used to using 2 equals to signs when you're checking if something is equal to something else. But in SQL, we just use a single equals to sign there. So, okay, I'm going to get rid of this where from here. And there's one more thing you want to know about the select statement here. So right now, we've just been using star all along. But we can specify, like for example, let's say we had 10 different columns here. We had first name, phone number, email address, and so on. But we only wanted to see their first name, for example. Instead of using the star here, we could type first underscore name. And now if we run this, select first name from customers, it will show only the first name of all the customers in the table. Likewise, if we wanted just the phone number, we could say select phone underscore number from customers, and we run this line of code. It will only return the phone numbers. So we can also comma separate this. So if we wanted only first name, first underscore name, we put a comma here and phone number. And if we run this line of code, it will give only the first name and the phone number, and it won't give that ID column here. So this is just different ways of looking at your data. Maybe you have a huge table and you don't want to see every single column. This is a good way to filter that down and see only the data that you need. And you can also combine this with the where clause at the end. So you can say where first underscore name is equal to John. And now if I run this line of code, guess what will happen? It will show first name and phone number of the column where John is in, or the row where John is in. So it won't show me the row for Bob here. So this is a cool way of filtering down your data. You can only view the data that you need to view without getting back a huge list here. And yeah, in the next video, we'll start looking at some more complicated stuff. So make sure you tune in for that.